Have you ever stopped and wondered, what if we're teaching our youngest students all wrong? Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical framework that says we should be aligning curriculum not just with subjects, but with the actual biological wiring of a child's brain as it grows. It's an idea that could literally reshape how we build lifelong learners right from the very beginning.
So let's start with a big what if. What if our entire curriculum wasn't just a checklist of things to get through, but was instead designed to sync up perfectly with the predictable, natural way a child's mind and senses are maturing? Is it possible there's been a map for how learning really happens and we just haven't been using it?
So, here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll look at this new map for learning. Then, we'll break down what are called the two flows of learning. After that, we'll walk step by step through the 4 grades that build this core idea of agency. And finally, we'll tie it all together and see why getting this foundation right is just so incredibly crucial.
You know, the core problem here is that a conventional curriculum can be kind of like giving a kid a book that's way too advanced for them. It often overlooks the single most important variable, the student's own mind. This new map, well, it's all about moving past that one-size-fits-all approach to something that's genuinely in tune with how a child's brain is naturally coming online. And the solution is a model that sees growth happening in 3 big stages. First, there's establishing the physical self, which is called agency. Second is building abstract thought and what's called complex awareness. That's when they start linking bigger ideas. And third is cultivating a rich inner world as a differentiated being. Now today, we're going to laser focus on that all-important first stage, building agency. So how does all this actually work in a classroom? The source material describes it as a pedagogical dance, and I absolutely love that analogy. It's this constant back-and-forth dance between 2 different ways our minds process the world around us. And here are the 2 main dance moves. Sometimes we learn from the inside out. Think of this as learning that's led by your gut feelings. Your intuition is shaping how you see things. And other times we learn from the outside in, where direct, hands-on experience out in the world actually shapes how we feel and think on the inside. What's so fascinating is that the direction of this dance actually flips as a child develops. And what powers this whole dance? 2 fundamental cognitive tools. You've got perception, which is what we use to figure out what's happening right here, right now, and you've got memory, which is that whole library of past experiences we pull from to make sense of the present. The constant interplay between these 2 is the real engine of learning in this model. All right, so let's see how this all comes together in Stage 1, agency. This is roughly grades 1 through 4, and honestly, its importance is massive. This is where a child forges their fundamental relationship with the physical world. The learning here is primarily bodily, and it creates the essential foundation that all future abstract thinking will be built on. So the journey into agency kicks off in 1st grade, and it all starts with the most fundamental learning tool we have, our hands. Everything is grounded in physical reality, especially through the sense of touch and this idea of a boundary. So for a 1st grader, the cognitive flow is inside out, and it's driven by perception. I mean, think about it. A child doesn't need to be taught how to pick up a block. Their innate body-mind coordination is the tool they use to make sense of new stuff. They are actively using their body to understand the world, which helps them develop a real sense of touch and define a boundary, literally learning where me ends and the world begins. And this is where the curriculum gets really cool. We're not talking about abstract worksheets. No way. We're talking about hands-on materials like blocks, clay, and sand. Sorting physical objects to ground the idea of numbers in something real. Even drawing simple lines connects the mind to the hand in a powerful way. It's all about tangible, physical experience. Okay, on to 2nd grade, where we see this monumental cognitive leap. The focus shifts from what's happening right now to what has happened before. The child starts to tap into the power of their internal feelings and memories. The flow is still inside out, but now, and get this, it's driven by memory. This is a huge deal. For the very first time, a child is using a stored internal feeling, a visceral memory, to give meaning to new information. This helps develop a sense of well-being as they connect new stuff to familiar, safe feelings. And it gives them this amazing new ability to grasp the wholeness of a process or a story. So, how do you teach to this? Through stories. Narratives have a beginning, a middle, and an end. They're a perfect representation of that wholeness. Or by studying complete cycles, like the life cycle of a butterfly or even the process of baking bread. It lets them grasp a whole concept from start to finish, perfectly mirroring how their own brain is starting to work. All right, now get ready for a big twist.
In third grade, the direction of that pedagogical dance completely flips. The outside world now starts to actively shape the child's internal world of judgment.
The flow now flips to outside in, and it's driven by perception. So what the student directly sees and touches in the world, that's now shaping their internal reasoning. This is literally the beginning of evidence-based thinking, and this huge shift fosters a sense of self-movement, acting with purpose, and the ability to actually perceive and recognize change over time.
So of course, the curriculum has to shift to support this. Think about project-based learning, like gardening. A student plants a seed, they water it, and they watch it grow. They are seeing tangible change driven by their own purposeful self-movement. Tracking that transformation helps them pull all their observations together into a real understanding of a process.
And now we've reached the culmination of the agency stage. Fourth grade is all about consolidation. This is where that rich library of stored sensory data finally comes online to inform a child's judgment in a really powerful new way.
The flow stays outside in, but now it's driven by memory. All those accumulated sensory memories from past experiences, they are now the tools used to make more informed, comparative judgments. Kids aren't just reacting to the present anymore, they're evaluating it. This helps develop a sense of balance and empowers them to identify subtle, nuanced difference between things.
And the curriculum totally reflects this new ability. Students get comparative tasks, like analyzing different animal habitats. They might map their local community, which forces them to draw on past learning. Even introducing fractions by folding paper is a super concrete way for them to compare parts to a whole and actually see the difference.
Okay, this slide just pulls it all together beautifully. Just look at that cognitive flow column, and you can see that rhythm we've been talking about. Inside out, then bam, it flips to outside in, outside in. Now look across the rows. You can see how the perceptual capacity evolves from just grasping a boundary to identifying difference, and how their sensory development builds from a simple sense of touch to a more complex sense of balance. This is that whole pedagogical dance mapped out year by year.
So why do we spend all this time on these first 4 years? Because the learning that happens in this agency stage, it isn't just about blocks and stories. It's the essential body-based foundation upon which all future, more complex, abstract reasoning is built. You just can't build a strong house on a weak foundation. Simple as that.
And this quote from the source material just captures it perfectly. When we actually align our teaching with this natural development, we're not just ticking off boxes in a curriculum. We are actively cultivating the core capacity for a person to learn for their entire life. We're teaching them how to learn. And that leaves us with one last really crucial question to ponder. In a world that so often rushes kids toward abstract concepts way too early, what are the consequences for their higher-level thinking when this deeply physical sensory foundation of agency is never fully built? What gets lost when we try to skip the first steps of the dance?